for your planning purposes. Whichever one you can hit, you'll get the basics on that, okay? You've seen this slide as well too. As Ollie said this, or as David said, this is public domain stuff, but essentially we've already received the Education Phase 1 in SFSF, the Education Phase 2, you've already budgeted. It's not like new money. We just need to get it, and that's part of what Jolynn will talk about a little later. And then the other services. This slide I'll spend a second on here. This is, Jolynn provided us with basically what the state has done in terms of these funds. You've seen federal numbers up to now. Let's take a look at the state numbers for a second. First 5 lines are important. The Title I Part A is already out. That's already there. Now the question that and Bob's going to go through is how to make sure that money lasts over the next several years and you don't get to the funding cliff. You've got the money. The real trick of this whole game here is how you make sure it's not going to be a situation where it just, you really lose a lot. It's scaling it, making sure that it works out. He'll spend a fair amount of time on that and then a lot of time in breakouts on that. Number 2, school improvement. Uh-oh, look at that second column. That kind of talks what David said a little bit earlier, and Zolly mentioned. The money in school improvement has not been issued. We heard a couple of weeks ago it might wait till July. Now we're hearing maybe some will come in January. Janelle will spend a fair amount of time on that here and then much more in her breakout sessions. But that 0 right there has some huge implications. And also what David said about changing the rules from what we were doing to what they want us to do is a significant situation we're dealing with for all of you that are heavily involved in school improvement monies. And we're working on that not only to try to determine what these rules are, but also to lobby with our federal legislators to make sure we don't get on the short end of this one. But that's a biggie. The next one is Ed Tech, and as we mentioned before, that money is out, mostly distributed through Title II, I believe. You should have that already in your budgets. Next one is state fiscal stimulation. I mentioned round 1's in, round 2's not. That's about $270 million still out there that we need to get. And Jolynn will tell us how we're going to get it here in the next few weeks. Okay? And then finally, you have the special education grants, and that money again is in. That's the IDEA money. We've already been through the various determinations. I know a lot of you have been through some issues with that back and forth, and Doug will spend little time on this one and a lot of time on breakouts, making sure you understand all the nuances there. Another huge issue with IDEA, special ed money, is making sure we get that money consistently spent over the next 4 years so we don't run into these cliffs. All right? And with that, I'm going to come back later with Judy to talk a little bit about Race to the Top, time permitting, and the whole competitive end here. But now let's switch into the title special ed realm, and that'll be Bob Herman.
Thank you, Alan. I want to point out to you that you've got some handouts on your tables that were there when you walked in this morning. Looks like this. It's not a complete set of the PowerPoint, but it's some of the slides that have a lot of printing on them, like charts. So you can see them if you've got over 40 or over 50 eyes like I do, it may be helpful to focus. So one of the slides that's in my presentation is the third one on the page. It says slide 11. And so when that comes up, you'll know where to find it. I'm going to be focusing my remarks on special education and Title I. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the spending and investment portion. And then Doug Gill will talk about regular IDEA and ARRA IDEA. Gail Pauley will talk about regular Title I and ARRA Title I. Over the next 2 days, while you may not be glorified, we hope you're not horrified, but you will definitely be horrified. Gail, I told you that wouldn't be funny. In my overview, I'm going to be also sharing some information from IDEA, Special Education, a fiscal timeline that includes 2 examples and a similar thing for Title I. And I want you to know these are examples, they are not recipes. So it's just to emphasize the need for planning, as we've heard already so much today, and not that this is the formula that will work for your individual district. You've seen this slide in various versions already several times today, and this provides a context for you as you work your special programs, Title I and IDEA, but also all of the programs that you work with at the district level. And so standards and assessments, data, effective teachers and leaders, and notice that the term quality is not there. So it's more than just having the proper credentials or passing a test. It's actually being effective, and you'll see that as a theme that rolls through several of the ARA programs. And also these items and the items on the next slide, you will see as themes in the upcoming reauthorization. Don't be surprised about that. The guiding principles that characterize the ARA funding from state fiscal stabilization and all of the other programs, including the formula grants, Title I and IDEA: spend quickly to save and create jobs, improve student achievement, the whole idea of transparency and accountability, and then you've heard already a lot about the funding cliff and the necessary attention you need to pay to your work to avoid that. As I go through this, and as you return to your districts, some good resources for you are those that are found on the Department of Education website, simply www.ed.gov, and then our own website at the agency. And one of the example here is the uses of funds guidance, which Zali highlighted in his remarks, and you will find them, I think, to be very useful as you make decisions in your own districts. Well, you've seen the program. I think it was emailed to you earlier, and you received copies of it today as you came into the conference. And the theme around the workshop for WASA, WASBO, OSPI, ARRA conference, I don't know why we couldn't fit in one more acronym into that title, but be that as it may, it's plan the work and work the plan. And that is always important, but it's never been more important than now with the challenges and opportunities that ARA funding bring to us. And so while it is certainly important to plan 1 year in advance, we are recommending to you that you look out farther into the future than that, at least 4 years. And we're talking 2009-10, the year that we are already in. The next one, 2010-11, 2011-12, and 2011-13. Now just a footnote here, if you'll think to the state uniform bar, and the very end of that on the right-hand side is 2013-14, No Child Left Behind promised us that all children and all subgroups of children would be 100% proficient at the end of that school year. So if we just wait 1 more year, there'll be no need for special education, no need for Title I, and no need for any ARRA planning. See, Doug, I told you that wasn't going to be funny either. Well, here's the chart I told you was coming up. It's the IDEA fiscal timeline, and that gives you a 4-year snapshot of special education funding from the federal level. And I'm talking about federal fiscal year 09, 010, or not 010, but 10, 11, and 12. And so that gives you an idea of regular IDEA funding, ARA IDEA funding, and then the carryover parameters for both of those programs. I want to highlight for you that those funds, each time they are granted in regular IDEA, nothing new, are good for a 27-month period, and you can see on the chart that you have in front of you where those dates end. The first one, August 31st, 2011. And then you know that ARA funding comes to us in one lump for IDEA. Those are federal fiscal year 09 funds. And then you can see how the carryover plays out over that period of time. 100% for this year, which is new. We are anticipating that same amount for next year. and then returning to the lower 5% in the 2 years after that. And notice that those last three amounts have an